So what we have here is our 2007 Kia Sorento. It's a little out of the normal. Stock interior. It's the way we're going to leave it to keep everything as stock as possible so it looks quiet and normal. It's a regular old Sorento. To get to the front, what we have is an LY6 6-liter. It's from a 2009 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. It's just around 400 horse. It's got the GM Performance Parts intake manifold for an LS3 with the injectors that match and the 90mm throttle body drive-by-wire. I am leaving the drive-by-wire system in. This one has VVT in it, so you can't keep the drive-by-wire you can't keep the VVT and get rid of the drive-by-wire. The accessory assembly is off of a truck. To get that to work, did have to machine the bracket down to clear the throttle body. This coil packs are the same. This side, you can see it has right now the truck manifold on it. Gets a little tight with the steering rod in there. And there we go. See, it kind of goes right into the steering shaft. So I either have to do a really sharp bend or change to a block hugger manifold. And that manifold's off of a F-body. On this side, back on. This one's clear as fine. There's no interference. You know, it's plenty clear of that power steering line. The mounts are just, these are Corvette mounts. It's the Corvette mount and the bracket. We just used a custom welded piece of 1/4-inch thick steel on both sides. And welded to the frame. The 07 Sorento has a full frame like a truck all the way back. It's fully boxed from front to back also. Keeping the stock fuse box. There's no reason to change it on this. Everything's ran through the harness, and everything I need for the to run the LS motor is through the harness, and no big deal. I just got to change a couple things because the fuel relay and the power relay work opposite. So on the Kia, they provide the 12 volts when the ECU's on, and they provide 12 volts to run the fuel pump. On the GM, they ground. So I'll just run a relay to switch that over. That's the E38 GM PCM. Okay, and this is the only few things we need from the Kia. This harness right here. This is the fans. So those are already pinned to the GM harness to plug in for the fans. Back here, this was stuff in case I was going to run air conditioning. I'm sure my wife would like to have air conditioning, but at the moment, it's easier to do it without it. This here is for the fuel, to turn the fuel pump on and the fuel level. That'll get wired back in to the stock stuff so that we can know the fuel level in the car. This side over here, this is all wired already, the PCM, for the PCM plugs. That's OBD connection, so that the computer can communicate to the stock onto the dashboard OBD2, ALDL connection. It's also got the power wires, the hot all the time, and the ignition on wires, tax signal, things like that. Basically, a little more than a 4-wire system if you were to 4-wire the ECM. The oil pan, which isn't on it right now. Light back on. You can see that there's with no oil pan and the industry on it, it's a little tight with the factory differential in there. So what I had to do is I took the front sump GTO oil pan and cut it and notched it. And I'll show you that in a minute. Everything else pretty much that's it. I am using the, let's see, that is the GM 6L90E trans. That's what this part of this pigtail is. It's back here hiding as a 6L90 trans connections. That's all driven by an internal transmission control module that talks to the PCM. So I left it. It came with the engine and everything. For fuel, what we're going to do is, this is the factory fuel. The factory fuel for the Kia is a return fuel system. This is the pressure line here. This is the return line. So what I did was, from Speedway Motors, I got this unit here. Down so you can see. That's their, believe it's a LT or an LS, it might be an LS1, excuse me, fuel pressure regulator / filter assembly. And that cuts the fuel pressure. I believe it's at 58 or 60 psi. And the kit that I got from Speedway Motors came with the Blue Earls fittings. And you just tighten them, loose them right here, and they just come right on and off. Make it really easy to connect them. So again, these are NPT fittings on there. And, oh, excuse me, they're AN fittings on this one. The other one's an NPT that I have for it to connect to the factory stuff. So basically this will sit. What I'm gonna do with this is either put this back here on the firewall, and that'll be able to filter in the back there, and we'll put a little heat shield wrap on it to keep it from being cooked by the exhaust manifolds. Because the LS motors are returnless, there's only one line there going from that to there. So let me pause this and we'll show you the oil pan. All right, here's the oil pan. It's partially welded. Didn't have time to finish everything, and it doesn't look the best because it's cast crap, and it's got the we MIG'd it, so I mean it doesn't look terrible right here, but you know, I got it as clean as possible. You just can't. The cast, anybody who's welded one of these pans or attempted to knows. So basically this notch out will be here, and this will be closed on the top here, and that's going to give me the diff clearance I need. I got a bunch of pictures of that stuff. So a few people asked how much clearance there is in there, and this is with the radiator back in. Surprisingly, there's a little bit of clearance in there. Not a whole heck of a lot. Definitely running an electric fan on the front as a pusher. Here's the core support held back on. There's a ton of room. I mean, there's a lot of room in here, you know, for a pusher fan. There's definitely not a lack of space up there. So if I needed to run a wider radiator, you definitely want a wider radiator, which probably wouldn't hurt. Although this radiator is really tall. It's about 2.5 foot tall. So we'll see how she does. There you go. That's the LSX Kia Sorento there.